What's up guys, it's Tyria here by Nino Quadji, and welcome to my Black Ops 6 Season 3 Reloaded Best Settings video for BO6 multiplayer. A lot of people have been asking me, Hero, what are your best settings? How do you aim? How do you hear? How do you see everything on the screen? And that's what this video is for. I typically do a video like this every single update because people are usually curious, even though I don't really change much. So hopefully you guys learned something new today. However, there is something new on the console side, and I'll talk about that when I talk about the console audio settings later on in the video that are outside of the game, which are kind of huge because you can actually compete against PC players now on at least the PS5. So you guys are excited to see my best controller settings, sensitivity, graphic settings, audio settings for both PC and console. Yes, I'll be showing off both here in today's video. Then make sure you guys drop a like in the video, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. If you're new to the channel, I specialize in dropping high-kill gameplays on multiplayer, as well as giving some tips and tricks throughout the way. So if you guys enjoy the good vibes here, then definitely do subscribe. I'd love to see you around. But now that I've, been done with my yapping here, let's go ahead and start things off with the controller settings here. So of course I use controller, I don't use keyboard and mouse. You're going to have to look at another video for something like that. The button layout that I use though is bumper jumper tactical flipped. And basically with bumper jumper tactical flipped, which if you don't know how to flip it, you just go over here to swap L1 R1 with L2 R2, make sure that is on, and then you'll see it. On console, I believe it's like bumper something, just whatever it says, bumper jumper or something, you guys will see it. It's a little bit of a different name, like L2 bumper button flip. I don't know what the heck it's called, but on console it's a little bit different. It sounds different, but it's the same thing. Basically, I jump using L2, aim in with L1, shoot with R1, and shoot with R2. And that's always just how I've been able to play when it comes to Black Ops 6 multiplayer. I'm able to just be able to drop shot, jump shot a lot more fluidly, and movement's a huge, part of this game, and that's what makes it a lot more easier for me to do those actions. So make sure you guys use this button layout. I think it will really help you if you can get used to it. Horizontal and vertical stick sensitivities are both 1.95 and 1.95. I used to play on like a 7 or 8 sensitivity before this weird decimal system that they've got going on, so just something to kind of think about. Our bumper ping is going to be off. All these are off, and then obviously I'm playing flipped. Controller vibration off. I don't feel like you really need it on or in any way. And then dead zone inputs, you guys can just copy everything that I got here if you want to have the least amount of stick drift. And of course you can, apply that yourself. You might have a little bit different numbers, but this is how I like playing. Going over to the aiming settings now, our sensitivity multipliers are all going to be 1.0 because we're going to change other things besides this multiplier setting. And then going into the aiming advanced settings, low conversion is all going to be standard. ADS sensitivity transition timing instant, a lot more better than gradual after zoom in my eyes. Third person ADS correction type assist. Aim response curve type is going to be dynamic. Some people like linear, some people like standard. I think dynamic gives you the most stickiness within your aim assist, and it's been proven, time and time again since 2020 when Mod for 2019 was out, that this is what the pros use, and I've been using it all these last 5 years, and it's helped me a lot. Of course, use whatever you feel like is going to help you a ton more, and don't change the aim response curve slope scale, because if you change it to be below 1, you'll have a little bit less stickiness. So of course you can experiment with it, but I don't recommend doing so. And then our custom sensitivity per zoom is going to be the low zoom through the 5x zoom is going to be 0.9, and then 6x to the high zooms will be 1.20. And the reason this is because I want to be a lot more accurate with the lower zoom optics, whereas the higher zoom optics, they're a lot more annoying to use and a little bit sluggish, so 1.20 is going to make me feel a little bit more snappy in that sense. Target aim assist is going to be on, motion sensitive behavior off, and, we don't really care about motion sensors, so we're going to skip that. Going over to the movement settings now, sprint assist is going to be on. If you want, automatic tactical sprint, you could put tactical sprint assist on, but usually I play with slipstream on, so I don't even really need tactical sprint. And then you guys can copy everything here. We got sprint assist sideways and sprint assist backwards on, which are really nice for on the movement. If you don't care for on the movement at all, you can just turn these off and play regularly, but I wouldn't recommend it, at least for this game. Mantle assist is going to be off, and you guys can see all of my settings here. Mantle assist angle is going to be tight, just so you can mantle whenever you need to in the most responsive way possible. Crouch assist is going to be off, and crouch assist tactical sprint is also going to be off. And then corner slicing is on. However you don't like how you corner slice, where the character kind of like leans or whatever as they approach a corner, then you can turn this off and you won't have to worry about that. Slide/dive behavior, I play on tap to slide. I jump shot when I need to, I slide when I need to, I drop shot when I need to. It's up to you, or dive when I need to. But of course, you can use whatever. You can even put slide only if you don't even use the dive. Sometimes the dive really saves me. I think one of my best examples is one of my recent videos where a grenade almost killed me if I didn't dive. So it's situational, but it's up to you. Automatic airborne mantle is going to be on. Sprint restore on. Slide maintain sprint on. Pretty much all of this is pretty much default settings. Movement advanced settings. You guys can see everything here. Nothing too different here, I would imagine. And then vehicle behaviors, vehicle advanced settings. You guys can see everything here if you guys are really curious. And then going over to the combat settings here. ADS behavior is going to be hold. I think all of this is pretty much default in my eyes. I haven't really changed any of this. If I don't, remember. Combat advanced settings. Anything important here? Interact / reload behavior. If you're playing multiplayer, tap to reload is going to be the way to go. If you're playing Warzone chat, prioritize interact. This allows you to loot faster, open doors quicker, just be a little bit more responsive instead of holding square to loot stuff. So make sure you got prioritize interact on for, Warzone. But tap to reload is the best way to play it on multiplayer, at least in my eyes. And akimbo behavior can be independent or paired. I recommend independent just so you can be in control of the akimbo guns that you use. But if you end up using akimbo and you want to run out of ammo at the same time, then put on paired and you only have to shoot once. Or shoot the R1 button instead of both the L1 and R1 buttons if you use that to shoot. And then all of this here you can just copy down. And that should be it for our controller settings. So let's go ahead and move on to our PC graphics settings. And then we'll go to our console graphics settings and console audio settings afterwards. So when it comes to my PC graphics settings, I play on full screen borderless. I stream and record on one PC. My my GPU is a 3080 Ti. I've got a 1440p monitor, 144 hertz. And you guys are curious about the rest of my PC build. Everything else should be on screen, or you can do !PC or !specs on my Twitch chat if you guys are really curious about the full list. Everything else here is up to you. NVIDIA reflex low latency on plus boost, or you could do on. My friend recommended me to do on plus boost, who's really like tech savvy about computers. So make sure you have that on and see if it makes the PC perform the best for you. Eco mode preset's going to be custom, and everything else here is kind of a personal preference or whatever the case may be. Going over to quality now, we got a graphic preset on custom. Render resolution, I have it at 85 just because I play on 1440p already. So just being in the middle of 1080p and 1440, the game is still going to look nice to me, and I get a little bit higher frames. However, if you play on 1080p, you might as well have this at 100 if you want to be able to see the game as clearly as possible. But if you have trouble, with the frames, you can obviously put this up a little bit. It's really up to you. I really am in a good spot personally. Dynamic resolution should be off. Upscaling / sharpening should be Fidelity FX Cast. And then I have it all the way at 100. And everything else here is kind of a personal preference. I have variable rate shading on. And then go over to texture resolution. We got that low, texture filter anisotropic, normal, depth of field off, detail quality low, particle resolution very low, bullet impacts on, persistent effects off, shader quality low, on-demand texture streaming minimal, local texture streaming quality low, shadow quality very low, screen space shadows off, occlusion and screen space lighting off, screen space reflections off, static reflection quality low, tessellation off, volumetric quality low, deferred physics quality off, weather grid volumes off, and water quality off. This basically just makes it so the game looks as nice as possible, but also I have as much frames as possible as well. So make sure you guys copy all that down. And then go over to our view settings here. I have both of these off, up to you if you want to put that on or not. Field of view is going to be 120. I want to be able to see as much of the screen as possible and be able to locate my opponents as much as possible. So that's why I have it, as far as possible. But if you have trouble seeing people, you could lower this down to like 100, 105. I know people like that. I just play on 120 because I'm trying to take full advantage of my field of view. ADS field of view is going to be independent or affected. The difference between these two is that affected, it keeps your 120 FOV or whatever setting you have as your FOV, even when you ADS. However, when you do independent, it goes down to an 80 FOV when you're ADS. And you might be wondering, Hero, I thought you liked, full-on FOV. Why do you want a lower FOV when you're ADSing? Well, when you're ADSing, you're typically just looking out for whatever's in front of you. You're not really focusing on anything else. So for me, it's like if I can see the opponent as much as possible, I'm able to track them as much as possible with an independent, FOV when I'm ADSing. And I can still have my 120 FOV whenever I'm not ADSing. So that's the way I like to play. Of course, if you like the FOV that you're at, like your 100 FOV, and you want that to be 100 FOV even when ADSing, put on affected. But I think independent is just a better setting to keep your aim on, on point. Weapon field of view is going to be wide, third person field of view 90, vehicle field of view wide, world motion blur and weapon motion blur both be off. just because you don't want to deal with blurriness. If you have blurriness on the screen, that's going to screw you over and you won't be able to see whoever is shooting at you around the corner as easily. First person and third person camera movement, both at least 50%. You do not want this at 100%, otherwise you're going to be shaking like crazy. And then everything else here is personal preference. And now that we finished our PC graphic settings, let me go to my console graphic settings and also show you the special console audio that was just added with the most recent update. So now here we are on my console graphic settings, and I'll also show you guys the special console audio settings. Here we got the display. We got 120 Hz refresh rate on, which you should definitely put on if you're able to on the PS5, PS5 Pro, Xbox Series consoles, just because having those extra frames are an advantage. And everything else you guys can, obviously have off or on or whatever the case is. When it comes to quality here, world motion blur and weapon motion blur should both be off. They hurt you. You shouldn't even have them on. Same with depth of field. No point in having it on. Fidelity FX cast on, and this cast strength should be at 90. And then on-demand texture streaming, I have it optimized, but I also have download limits off. And of course, you could also put it on minimal if you don't care for this. If you're lagging a lot, then put it on minimal, and you should feel the game a lot more better that way. When it comes to the view section here, we got motion production reset off, arachnophobia off, unless you do have arachnophobia. Field of view is going to be 120 just because I like maximizing my FOV, which I've already talked about in the PC graphics settings section. So if you want more information on this, definitely go over there. ADS field of view is going to be independent, which I've already talked about in the previous section. If you guys want more info on that. Weapon field of view wide, so your weapon's as small as possible. You guys can see as much of the screen as possible. Third person view 90. Weapon field of view wide, just so you can see more of the screen. And then first and third person camera movement should both be at least 50%. You do not want it at 100 or the screen's going to be shaking a lot. And everything else is personal preference. Now going into the special audio settings for console, you actually need a PS5 in order to be able to do this. Because if you go into the PS5 menus, and you go over to the settings, and you go over to volume, and you go to this audio focus section. In this audio focus section, you could use audio focus, and the only thing that really matters here is the focus type. If you change the focus type to boost quiet sound, essentially you're gonna have the same thing that's present on PC, where it's a sound EQ boost. You're gonna be able to hear certain sounds a lot more easily, like footsteps, and maybe even reloads. And you're going to be able to pretty much track these opponents with a lot more ease. Now, the rest of the game will sound kind of weird to you, but if you care about being the best player, being able to hear the most distinct sounds, this sort of setting will help you. Now, of course, you can work with everything else on this menu, but I didn't really mess with that. All you really need is that boost quiet sound setting, and it transforms your audio a ton. So now PS5 players can really compete with the PC players, at least in my eyes. Xbox players, hey, I'm sorry. Hopefully they add something for you guys soon. But that's what I wanted to say here. So now, let me hop back on my PC for the in-game audio settings that I use on every platform. Okay, now here we are back on our PC with the audio settings in-game, of course, that you can use on both PC and, console. And our master game volume is going to be at 100. Gameplay music volume, we have that at 0. The music might be nice in this game, but we need to be able to hear everything in-game without any distractions. The all-out volume I've got at 80 just because I want to hear some of the callouts sometimes. You could, of course, lower this to like a 50 or a 60. Effects volume got to be 100. This is the most important one. This allows you to hear reloads, footsteps, glass breaking, a lot of random crap, even people armor plating at times. And you'll be able to, hear something out and be able to act upon that a lot more easily. Going on over, everything else should be, personal preference. Nothing else here is really all that important in my eyes. And then the same thing with voice chat. So yeah, now let's go ahead and move on to our interface settings here. And honestly, all of this is kind of personal preference, nothing really too important here. Telemetry, I have FPS, server latency, and packet loss on just to know if I'm lagging and see how my PC is performing. And everything else here is kind of, personal preference. Readability, we got subtitles here. And subtitles, I would love to have them on, depending. Not only just a campaign thing, but for multiplayer, because sometimes it's easier to read callouts over hearing callouts. The thing is, though, the game looks a little messy with all the subtitles that be happening. So that's the only reason I don't have it on. But if you're not a content creator, you just play the game for fun or whatever, and you want to perform a little bit better, I'd recommend having subtitles on. I used to have subtitles on all the time, but I feel like the videos look better. We don't have the text on screen or whatever, so it's up to you at the end of the day. And then gameplay HUD, our multiplayer HUD presets, I always play on magnified. It makes everything as huge as possible. And then with the visuals, I have a square minimap usually, compass type of minimap, Mini map rotation on, radar off, and then that's usually what I have on like everything. And you can obviously change all the colors that you want as well, but that's usually how I play. You know, all the stuff that I already talked about is already here. Vehicle and HUD prompts fade after 10 seconds, all this kind of personal preference. Crosshair is going to be static. Of course, you can put a center dot. A center dot's also really good, but I think static is just kind of the best way to go, because you can also put the crosshair dot on, and then you put the center dot scale at largest, so you can see the center dot as huge as possible. And everything else here is personal preference. You can change the color if you want. I've seen some people rock like a purple or something. I just like the white. I think it's all right. And everything else here is personal preference. But there you guys go. Those are my best settings for Season 3 Reloaded here. If any of these settings helped you, definitely drop a like and subscribe. And hopefully you guys enjoyed those console audio changes on PS5 at least. I don't know if they're going to ever do that for Xbox, but PS5 is kind of going head-to-head with PC now with all the changes that they've made. So hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe if you guys did. Turn on those noties. Follow me over on my Twitch at twitch.tv/TheMarkOverHero if you guys want to see me get my gameplays live. And don't forget to watch the videos that have already uploaded and will upload when it comes to Season 3 Reloaded. We've been on the grind, and these videos don't come easy. You guys are the freaking best, and thanks a ton for being awesome. I love you all.